A quick note before we get into the episode. Oversharing is a podcast for entertainment purposes only. It is not a medical podcast and does not constitute medical or psychological advice. Always seek the advice of your physician or mental health professional.
Hello and welcome back to Oversharing. I'm Jordana Abraham.
And I am Dr. Naomi Bernstein.
How's it going? How are you? It's starting to warm up here. It's been really nice for my mood.
Yeah, I got all the spring has sprung texts in the group chat this morning. All the East Coasters are feeling themselves.
Feeling the vibe, yeah.
We've been in spring for like 6 weeks already, so.
Okay, it's old news.
Old news, but I'm happy for you. The flowers are blooming. The bunnies are out. You're out for a
walk.
Yeah.
It's nice to not have to put on like 16 layers.
So nice. Sun on your skin. Yeah. So check in. How's it going? How are the babies? Are they doing any little tricks? They're smiling.
Charlie let out her first real belly laugh the other day. It was like drugs. It was great.
Yes.
It was really lovely.
God.
Yeah.
A baby laugh is like the best sound in the world.
Yeah. It was it was just wonderful. Yeah.
What made her laugh? What was the thing?
I don't even know. She just, she got like a little tickle, but nothing different than she had before. Maybe it hit a spot and she was sitting next to her sister. So maybe she was just feeling the vibes. Yeah.
So cute. It really is the best sound in the world.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting about having kids or little babies, I guess, is just that everything is they don't know, everything is new. And I think about all these different concepts and things that and just the way you think things are, and just they are starting from totally fresh slate, clean slate.
Yes.
Even this morning, I was like, this is your first, I took them on a walk. I was like, this is your first morning walk,
yes.
Life.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So many things. And that's we've spoken about awe before, the feeling of awe, and how there is science behind the power of the feeling of awe, that is out of all the emotions that you can feel, that is one that really can create the greatest impact to your mental health, is experiencing the feeling of awe, which is probably why kids are generally pretty happy, because they're experiencing it all the time.
Yeah.
Everything. You don't need to take a trip and get on a plane and fly through across the world for 12 hours to see a new site. You can just take a fistful of spaghetti and drop it on the floor, and you're like, oh my God, that was the funniest, coolest thing I've ever seen.
You're taking a bath. It's just they're
splashing the water. Yeah. And that child mind, we can get that. We can get a child's mind. You just have to remove the clutter. There are a lot of things that we can look at differently if we really look, if we really smell, if we really feel and see and touch and listen. You can do it right now. If you guys are out there listening, you can regain that sense of a child's mind. Yes. Seeing things for the first time, feeling small in a huge universe by just looking at, again, it's springtime. I think it's apropos that we're having this conversation. You go on your walk the same way, watching the trees blooming, watching how that just happens all by itself. That is pretty awesome. We don't really understand exactly how that just happens, that the earth just knows how to keep becoming reborn every spring. And you walk past the same little bud, and then it opens up. We can really do this. We can have these experiences of awe, but you have to quiet the clutter when you're walking, when you're out in nature. Just quiet long enough to really see what's happening. And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And you don't have to go seek it somewhere else. You can see it for free in your everyday life. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about that because we were considering like planning a trip in August. We usually go away pre-kids. That was something we did. So I was like looking into like all these different options for where we could go and what we could do and all these places we could travel to. And one, it kind of seemed like a pain in the ass with the two kids. It just seemed like a lot of logistics. And then I was kind of like, why do we need to go anywhere? Like we could I'm having a great time again, just watching them splash in a bathtub. Like,
yes.
I could experience that at home, save a lot of money and not drag them around to all these different places.
Yes.
It's almost like it feels like there's like you said a lot. There's a constant like seeking for like new and novel. It's kind of nice to embrace, I think, this idea of like really maximizing and enjoying where you are.
Totally. And especially if you live in a place with so much nature and you live in a place with seasons where it's always like August is going to be different than April.
Just got to watch out for those ticks.
Oh yeah, that's true. It is going to be different in that way. But and that's the thing about kids too, is that they're always changing and you get to have this feeling of awe through them. Now that they're going to be experienced, like
they're going to be a totally different person in August. Like that's twice as long as they've lived. That's like they're going to be twice their age in August.
Totally. It's crazy. And they're going to pick a dandelion and you're going to blow a dandelion for the first time and watch them watch dandelion blow. Like and you don't need to get on a plane to do that, which is why, people are always like, oh, when I have kids, I'm going to throw them on a backpack and we're going to travel the world. And then you're kind of like, I don't know. That sounds a bit annoying. Maybe we'll just stay put.
I could, but it's almost like feels like I would almost do it just to say that I could do it almost or feel like I'm doing it or feel like I'm like this former version of myself, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I think that's a part of postpartum a lot of people go through is like, am I a different person now? Or am I, you're like, there's a lot of identity stuff I know a lot of people go through in terms of your old self and your new self and what you could do, freedom that you had before and the new kind of sameness that comes with kids.
And your body too, like that's a big part. Like the container for your identity is also very different. So that changes things a lot. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I will say I'm 10 years ahead of you, which is just, it's kind of an interesting dynamic that now it is really easy to just throw everybody in the car or on a plane and go do the thing. Like it's really, they pack their own bags. Like it's great. And
they'll remember it.
Yeah.
That's my other thing. It's like, if I'm taking them now, it's kind of for me. It's not for, they're going to be just as happy in, the backyard as they would be 100%. Anywhere we drag them to. So,
Totally.
And yeah, I'm kind of like, let's save the money and take it for when, they can remember it. And then they won't have to go to therapy for saying I haven't, spent any time or vacations with them.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I like it. Maybe we'll come visit again for another week if you're going to be around in August instead of traveling.
Yeah, you should. Hanging out. Hopefully the pool works. All right, let's.
All right, let's do it.
That'll be my triggered for a different day. Okay.
Oh my God, that was so funny. Where it was like the whole event was the pool party. Leading up to the pool party, the pool guy was there.
Still bothers me.
There was no pool party. That's all right.
It's a luxury issue. It's okay.
Yes. There will be a pool party this year.
There will. It's the last thing I do. I'll get an inflatable pool. All right.
All right. Let's do it.
Let's get into our show. If you guys have a voicemail, you can leave us a voicemail at 646-363-6294, or you can email us at oversharing@betches.com. You can subscribe, get 2 bonus episodes a month, all the episodes ad-free and a day early. Or you can join one of Dr. Naomi's therapy groups.
Come find us, NaomiBernstein.com. We would love to have new group members. It's a really awesome space. And every time a new group member joins, they are welcomed with open arms. We have challenges, we have community, and yeah, we would love to have you. So come find us, NaomiBernstein.com.
And I would like to issue a, I don't know if it's a retraction or an apology or whatever it is. I would like to. So I got a lot of shit about the episode that came out now 2 weeks ago. Where I was on the side of the girl with the rent stabilized apartment who wrote in. I confused rent stabilized with rent controlled, which is what our uncle had. And apparently rent stabilized means that the rent goes up, but not by that much. And therefore it's not like a passed down family inherited thing, which does change, I think, the way I look at the email, because given that it was rent stabilized and not rent controlled, it did seem more selfish on the friend's part to keep it in her name and a little bit more manipulative. So retraction, apology. Given the difference between those two terms, I've reflected on the email, and I think it's more messed up than previously.
Okay. Love it. I was not aware of that slight difference either. So I'm educated. We're here to learn.
Yes. Here to learn. Apologies. Yeah. If you got a rent stabilized apartment, just don't ever leave.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, it's a good deal. I do think it was intentionally a little bit sketchily, not clear. So
fair. Yes. And also moral of the story is you got to be like really, really clear on what the deal is with regards to any kind of lease. But yeah, not nice on the friend's part. Let's get into our...
Thanks for owning it.
Yes. Let's get into our emails. Okay. I'll read our first overshare. Hi, Jordana and Dr. Naomi. I'm writing in to get some advice about how to deal with grief when a pet goes missing. My husband and I have 2 cats, one of whom got out of the house and has been missing for over a week. Our cats are our children and we are devastated. We think she got out through an open door that neither of us was aware of at the time. We've been doing everything we can to find her and help try to get her to come home on her own. We have not had any luck at all, not even a sighting of her. I've always had pets throughout life, so I have experienced pet loss grief, but this is the first time a pet of mine has gone missing. This grief feels different, almost worse than the grief from a pet passing away. At least when a pet passes away, there is a finality or some type of closure. With this type of grief, I can't stop thinking about how she is doing, if she is okay, and the immense amount of guilt for leaving a door open. There are so many what ifs and what could we have done differently thoughts going through my head constantly. The not knowing is absolutely eating me alive. Thanks so much for any advice you may have. A grieving cat, Lady Betch.
Yeah, this is so hard. And I can validate how it's different because even as I'll just share, as I'm hearing this, I'm kind of like, let's find it. Like, where are you? Let's put posters up. Like, let's get out there and find the cat. There's this feeling of we can still do something about this that feels both like activating and like you want to control it, but you're still kind of helpless and wondering how she's doing. Yeah.
Is this what you would call ambiguous loss?
Yeah.
Which is basically when something is like gone, but not entirely, or like it's kind of like unclear. It's like it's not in like a traditional loss kind of way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is exactly what ambiguous loss is, which is like you don't have the thing physically, but psychologically they're still potentially there, or they're still there in your mind, and there's no closure around it. So then it fills your mind with all the what ifs. Like I've had patients even, and this is not the same thing as a pet or whatever, but that have lost like their wedding ring or a piece of jewelry or something where they're like, they cannot sleep. They cannot get like a prized possession where it feels like it's got to be here somewhere. Like you can't move on because it still feels like there's some hope that you're going to get this thing back.
It's almost easier if it would have been like destroyed or something like that. Or you hear like a lot of people go through this if they have a loved one that's like, has very intense Alzheimer's or dementia or something, or, they're physically still alive, but emotionally not there.
That's almost like the reverse of this, where you physically still have it, but like psychologically it's kind of gone. Yeah, there's a lot. It really is. It's very hard. I've heard this in a lot of different ways. Even a breakup sometimes can feel like this, where you're like, okay, you're still here, especially if you're like trying to be friends, or, you're still here. I still see you. We still talk, but you're not mine anymore. And there's a chance that maybe we might get back together, but right now we're not.
Yeah, I think that's part of why situationships are very painful.
Yes.
Because it's never like a closed thing. The person often comes back. They're like, there's no closure. I think those can almost hurt more than a regular breakup.
100. I think those 3-monthers where you're like long enough to grow real feelings, but short enough to feel like you shouldn't, like guilty or stupid for having real feelings. This isn't that. This is like your real pet that I'm sure you've had for, at least several years, and you don't know where she is and you don't know how she's doing and if you're going to find her. And then on top of that, there's probably a lot of guilt. And I think this happens with missing people and missing pets, and is the guilt of like, I'm not looking.
Right. Any moment you're not looking.
Yes. Any moment you're not looking is like, I should be looking, but then you're looking and you're not finding. And at some point you have to rest and sleep, and you can't keep looking in the same place, and you've done all that you can do. And there comes a point, which I hope by the time that this airs, that she's back. So if she is, don't leave us hanging. Please let us know. But like, there comes a point when you're like, we can't just keep looking forever. And you have to kind of call off the search at some point. And that is, I think, when it becomes like the pain hits a peak, but then it becomes less of like this, kind of like ambiguous.
It's the only way you can move on,
is when you reach that point where you're like, okay, I'm going to make up my mind to have some closure on this. And I do think it will, then you can start the healing, but it is really hard to start healing when you're in this place. This is a really great question that we haven't tackled before. And maybe because it really is just so painful. Like that to me, I think that's why that show that I think we both watched was like so riveting. It's all her fault.
All her fault, yeah.
The missing child thing is so riveting because it's just like the worst nightmare, even more so even than like a child, God forbid, that passes away. Is like, we don't know how, is he being tortured? Is he okay? Where is he? Who's he with? How's he doing? Like the guilt of looking or, not looking. And this is really, really painful. So all I can really do is validate.
And I'm sure there's guilt that comes along with like the closure or the moving on. That's its own thing. Once you decide to go that route, like it reminds me of Castaway.
Oh yeah.
When he's on the island and then he's 4 years later, he's like finally gets rescued and she's gotten married. And it's like, I don't know. It's just like this very tragic movie. I find it to be like one of the sadder movies I've ever seen.
Yes. Something about Castaway. It's like, it was this very odd, very touching, like that's a movie that you think about like in circumstances like this throughout your life. You keep coming back to that.
Right. And then he gets back and she moves on. And part of you is like, I can't believe she would move on.
Yes.
But then you're like, yeah, he got into a plane crash and it's been years. So
yes,
like, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a very riveting theme too. I think is like that push-pull guilt thing. That's in a lot. That's how they get you. Like there's been a few movies and series that kind of hook you in that way, moving on and then guilt, but then this person that or animal or creature that you're missing is still living their experience. Like Homeland, I think that happens in there too, where like he's a POW and then she moves on and then he comes back. So it's a really
It's very
tough
hard.
human experience.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for her? Like, I guess on like how to decide when it is time to move on or how to deal with it in the interim before she gets to that point?
The only advice I think is around her own internal experience and the one piece that maybe she can control, which is not allowing herself, because it's going to happen, but recognizing those guilty thoughts if she's not looking, or if there comes a point where she does decide there's no more looking to do. Like she's looked and she's done everything that she can do. And, she's kind of at the point where it makes sense to move on or to stop looking, to just be aware of those guilty thoughts, and that is just her mind's attempt at controlling a situation that is not within her control, because that's what guilt is. It's the mind's attempt at finding something, some cause and effect for something that really didn't, it just happened, and it's a way to, our minds are always trying to make sense of the world. And sometimes the world just doesn't make sense, and bad things happen and sad things happen. And so just being aware of your mind doing that, and coming back and saying, this is just my mind's way of trying to pull me out of grief and into intellectualizing this. And it's grief. I mean, guilt is a way of trying to intellectualize grief and make sense of grief. Well, it's my fault and I shouldn't. And so other than that, as far as a timeline of how long to look, I think you'll kind of know when it starts to feel like, it's not working, or there's, it feels very repetitive, and, that it's starting to get to that time. And then at that point, it's more about allowing the grief process to happen then, which was the whole time you're avoiding that deep grief. And what I would recommend there is really just letting focusing on the feelings, the tears running down your face, the lump in your throat, the heaviness, the real grief, and leaning away from the mind chatter piece of the grief, which is the guilty, thoughts around the grief.
Well, good luck. Let us know.
Please let us know. I really, I'm going to be praying. I'm going to be thinking. I'm doing it right now. I really hope you find her. She comes back.
Sending really positive thoughts. All right, let's do a batch assist. Do you want to read this one?
Dear Jordana and Dr. Naomi, this is like formatted in prose or something. I thought this was a poem at first. Dear Jordana and Dr. Naomi, I'm a big fan of the podcast since its launch and recently subscribed. I've recently come to an ethical dilemma with a good friend of mine who I've known since high school and who has also become friends with my husband. On a recent outing to a farmer's market where we invited him for lunch, he mentioned some deals on bikes he gets through his work. Basically, he has an over 50% discount on city bikes and e-bikes. And since my husband needs a bike, we were considering buying one through him. Here's the dilemma. When we asked him about the prices, he sent us the list of available bikes and prices and said he would take a 10% charge for sorting out the logistics and ordering. Apparently, he's been making this offer to a bunch of other friends too. Concretely, we were looking at a bike for €300, which means he would take €30 for himself. For e-bikes starting at €1,000, he would ask for €100. Personally, I found it very icky to ask your friends for extra money to keep for yourself, and it makes me not want to buy it through him. At the end of the day, €30 is not going to make him rich, and in the long term, I feel like it evens out between friends. We often invite him over for drinks and dinner at ours. We have never been invited to his. My husband, who's a DJ, often puts him on the guest list for parties, and we're usually quite generous with our friends and would have for sure invited him for dinner to return the favor. While I understand ordering the bikes might be a hassle, I find it weird to make business from your friends without providing a real service. I'm wondering if I'm completely off in my opinion, or should we just accept that this is the way he is and move on? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. A betch who loves a discount.
What do you think?
50% is a really big discount.
It is.
Part of me is like, if this was like a 20% discount, I think this is super tacky. But I'm also like, this is a 50% discount. I'm very curious what's going on his end of it.
Right. I'm surprised like his work allows him to get, like, I understand like the company, like some companies, especially if they're in the business of doing things, give like an employee discount. But I would be surprised that they're letting him buy like 15 e-bikes if he works for an e-bike company at that discount. And now he's basically like he's making money off of like a company perk, which seems, that part almost seems like more unethical than the fact that he's charging his friends. Like if I had like a Betches merch company discount and I found out an employee was like giving the discount to other people and taking a cut.
Yes.
I might be like, that seems unethical.
Yes. I almost feel like the cut is for the risk because he's taking this risk in like using his company discount that's supposed to be for himself and maybe like his family or something. I don't know what, that he needs that little bonus to make it worth it to be like doing something that he's not supposed to do, more so than how long does it take to click a couple buttons and buy a bike? I can't imagine it takes.
I guess he's like sourcing the bikes or like what did she say he's doing? He says for sorting out the logistics and ordering. The ordering again seems like it would take a second, and logistics means like changing the mailing address to their mailing address.
Right. Part of me feels like this whole thing is sketchy, right? If he works for a company and you get a 50% discount off an e-bike, I imagine that's like a large discount, right? That you wouldn't imagine they would want shared with like everyone you know, especially like you said, that's the more unethical part of it. So part of me feels like this whole thing is sketchy. Part of me also feels like you're getting a 50% discount off a pretty expensive item. So like, just take it and do the thing. And
is it kind of tacky? Yeah. Is it like could he have done it again if you're good friends, like he said, like you're saying, you invite him over, you kind of like you set him up with like on the guest list for parties, he doesn't have to pay for that kind of thing. I think that makes it especially tacky. It's like you kind of like as friends, you do favors for each other all the time. Here he's kind of like making money off of you because again, it's not like he's making. It's like he makes the bikes himself and he's giving it to you at cost. Like he doesn't even make them. He's just ordering it.
Yeah, it's like a service fee. It is it's very tacky.
Yeah. And, it makes him look very like cheap and money grubbing, I would say. But he is being upfront about it. Like he's being like, I'll do it. This is what I like want to do it. Again, I don't think is it ethical? I think it's more unethical in terms of his relationship with the company than it is with you because he's being everything is very upfront and communicative with you. Is it tacky? Yes. Is it unethical with her? I think no.
Yeah, I agree. It is. I get even annoyed. Like I signed the kids up for a camp and I guess they outsourced the camp to some other website. Then now I have to pay like a service fee to literally buy the camp. And I'm annoyed about that. Like I'm paying camp, then I have to pay a 10% fee just to sign up. So I'm annoyed about that. It's not even my friend, so I get why it's annoying to just pay a fee to buy a thing. It's like I'm buying the thing. That should include the fee to buy the thing. So I get that it's annoying. The little devil's advocate other side of me says, you're getting an e-bike for half off. So like,
right. And he's taking the risk of getting in trouble.
You also have the option of saying, okay, this is annoying. I don't like it. I'm going to go buy this e-bike for full price. And you're not doing that because you're probably saving like several $100s. I don't know exactly how much an e-bike costs, but I imagine not that cheap. So overall, I would say this is uncool. I'd probably be irritated if I have friends that have like friends and family discounts on different things. And if they were like, yeah, here's my friends and family discount, but can you Venmo me an extra, $30, I'd be really annoyed actually.
Yeah. You would be like, just bake that into whatever my discount is if you at least and don't tell me.
Right. But you are getting a pretty good discount. So maybe just kind of, take it and move on. And next time, don't put them on the guest list. Make them pay to get into the club.
Yeah. Say you're charging a 10% fee
Yes.
for, the logistics of texting someone to put his name on there.
You're charging a promoter fee. Because your boyfriend's a DJ and you're the promoter. And so now
You should try that. It's very passive aggressive, but I like it.
There you go.
Yes,
Even
but
Steven.
Yeah, but if I were the company and I found out he was doing this, I would fire him.
Yeah, this doesn't sound right.
Like you're making money off of your company discount. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think he's charging for his risk is what it sounds like to me, especially because he's like doing this with lots of people.
Yeah, that's going to catch up to him. I don't think you need to punish him. Someone else is going to do that pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, 2 cents.
Yeah. Good luck.